Let's have a cognitive dissonance update here. It's the same thing as I said before. I'm looking at the polls. I'm saying, if the polls are mildly accurate, then we should expect this. But there's all of this data that's inconsistent, and it suggests that it's unfair. But and I did the same thing, right? I've done this twice now, as I've said, the process is unfair, but then I've looked at the data that I'm claiming is inaccurate, and I'm saying, I'm trying to compare the results based on it, right? So I'm spinning myself around in circles. I've explained that this is cognitive dissonance. I can't get rid of this entirely. I need to look at it from both angles, right? I need to say, okay, this is inconsistent. It strongly suggests it's not fair, but I also need to say, okay, if I forget about that, what does the data that I don't think is accurate actually say, right? So here's the update on that. Is this rigged? Well, the result was a little bit better than the numbers, but that's easy to explain. So does that put this to rest? The answer is not quite, because you don't prove a negative. That's why these conspiracy theories are so hard to get rid of. So don't think that, just because he won in Michigan, therefore it proves that the rest isn't rigged. That's faulty logic, right? Okay, let's try a thought experiment. If you were going to try and rig Michigan, what would you do? Well, you would stuff ballot boxes in Detroit. You probably wouldn't control every polling place. You just control the important ones in the urban cores, right? And if you look at the numbers, that's what happened is she won huge in Detroit and the areas around Detroit. Now, from the other perspective, how would you fight that? Well, if you were going to win anyways, despite these attempts to rig the votes in the urban cores, you'd have to overpower that by winning big in the areas that she doesn't control. And that's what happened, is that she won big in the urban centers and she lost big in the rural areas, which is exactly what you would expect to see if she had tried to rig the vote and failed, right? So it's also consistent with the same kind of head-scratching results that we saw in Massachusetts. You would think Bernie would do better amongst low-wage earners, both in Detroit and in Boston. These are urban core voters. And it's the urban polling stations that she would rig if she were to rig anything. So it might seem on first glance that this dispels this idea, but in fact the results are completely consistent with the idea that she tried to rig it, but failed to actually do it. Which doesn't prove it's rigged, of course. It just doesn't disprove it. The results in one state don't make the results in other states disappear either. So at the end of the day, whatever happens in whatever state is only relevant in a specific state. It doesn't disprove anything in any other state, right? I need some more updated polling before I can say anything at all about the fairness of the remaining contests, but do please remain skeptical and please do remain vigilant. I think that the overriding evidence is still very suspicious. We didn't get... If she had won by a landslide, that would have been a smoking gun. We didn't get that. Meaning that, if anything, it seems more that she's so incompetent that she can't even read the election that she's trying to steal. Right?